You guys aren't on tour with me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and have a bus tour again. What do you think?
Attorney General McCollum, have you called Rick Scott yet?
I called him yesterday to congratulate him and wish him well.
What else did you talk to him about?
It's pretty much what we talked about.
Are you going to endorse him in this race?
I still have serious questions, and I have had them throughout the time that I've had the very brief acquaintanceship with Rick Scott about issues of his character, his integrity, his honesty, things that go back to Columbia HCA, and I have not had the occasion to actually ever really get acquainted with him. A very brief telephone conversation yesterday is the first time I think we've done more than shake hands across the debate table, so it's something that I await the opportunity, if it occurs, to get better acquainted with him, and as other voters will do, I will judge him throughout this campaign.
If those aren't resolved in the next 2 months, will you support Alex Sink?
I have serious policy differences with Alex. I'm sure that you're probably aware of those. I'm particularly concerned with her position regarding the national health plan that's out there right now. I really think that the lawsuit that I filed is extremely important to declare Obamacare unconstitutional, and as you probably know, Alex Sink does not favor that lawsuit, so I have serious problems with her candidacy.
So are you a Bud Childs guy right now, then?
Well, I talked to Bud Childs yesterday too, so I'm not endorsing anyone right now in this race. I'm going to reserve judgment, and I'll be like all other voters. When the time comes, I'll cast my ballot. If anything changes in the interim with regard to someone persuading me to get involved with their campaign, I'll certainly inform you.
Why did you talk to Bud Childs yesterday?
He called me.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Alex Sink besides the obvious right here at Cabinet?
She called too. We've all had conversations. I guess I can say I've had conversations with Alex Sink, with Bud Childs, and with Rick Scott. And look, fellas, I'm going to focus on 4 months of being Attorney General I have left. I'm proud of the service that we've accomplished up there on child predators, on gangs, on fighting for the consumer, and most recently in this lawsuit regarding the question of Obamacare. And we got a lot of work to do. And so I'm focused there, and yes, I'm going to be attuned to this campaign, this election. I was disappointed we didn't prevail the other night, but we got to move on, and that's the way life is. You get up the next morning, you put your boots on, and you go back to work, which is where I am today.
Do you still think that Rick Scott is unsuited for the office? I mean, that's what you've said repeatedly.
Well, I've said what I've told you this morning, and that's about all I can comment on.
What do you? I'm sure you saw the releases and the comments yesterday from your supporters who are pivoting towards Rick Scott now.
Well,
what did you think of that?
It's going to be natural for a lot of the leaders in the legislative delegation and others to choose to support him. That's their prerogative. I've just given you my reservations that I still have personally. I just haven't met him and I don't know him that well. So that's where I am.
Did you give any advice to Childs or Sink on how to run a campaign against Rick Scott?
No, I didn't give them any advice at all. I just had a nice, pleasant chat with both of them, and it was a good conversation in both cases.
What do you think happened in this race? You think you were just outspent? What do you think happened here?
Well, I think the largest part of it was I was outspent, and many of the negative attacks that he put up there, some people believed, and they would because I couldn't respond to them adequately. It was one of those disappointing moments. We looked like we were up in the polls, but the only poll that counts is the one on Election Day. We had early voting in the state. We had absentee ballots. I know Rick Scott was up in the polls considerably over me 2 or 3 weeks before the balloting, and so I would surmise, though I haven't seen the results broken down, that he probably had a pretty hefty margin in maybe the absentees and the early voting. But I'm confident we came back. We were close. I'm proud of my team. I'm very proud the race was run, the way it was run, and of all the people who supported me. And I had so many incredible endorsements to have Governor Bush backing me, to have Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich, and Governor Huckabee and the Florida Chamber and the Police Chiefs Association and 28 sheriffs and so many others. It was a very rewarding feeling, even though we didn't prevail.
Did you ever ask, I know you went on the trail once with Governor Bush, did you ever make a request for him to come out more in those last couple weeks?
He was with me as much as he could be. He had a heavy travel schedule, and he did a robocall for me. He was with me. He did an ad earlier that you're aware of. We ran that ad quite a bit. Our ability to be up on the air with more than we were was very restrictive. I never had the resources to do a single mailing at the end of the campaign. We knew we weren't going to. We just hoped that what we were carrying out there with our message and in the media and with the endorsements of all the newspapers would carry us. Obviously it did not. It wasn't sufficient to overcome the tremendous advantage of over $50 million. I think it'd be closer to $60 million that Rick Scott spent of his personal wealth.
Would you have done anything differently? I mean, looking back here,
you'll always look back and second guess a few things, but there are very few things you can say you do differently here. In this case, we needed to run the ads we ran at the time we ran them. I had the limited amount of resources in my personal campaign account, and we used those as prudently as we could. I'm told the ad they call the blue shirt ad was a very effective ad, and certainly one that expressed my personal feelings and as much as I could convey to people about why I thought that I was the better candidate, and I hope that they would vote for me. But as I said then, I trust your judgment. They made their judgment, and that's the way it is.
Some Hispanic consultants said you really blew it when you came out in favor of the Arizona-style bill.
Look, we won Dade County overwhelmingly. We won that Hispanic vote.
But the turnout was nowhere near what the turnout was in North Florida. I mean,
well, all I can tell you is we had as strong a turnout as we could have down there, and we worked very hard to do it. I think we had a good result.
Last question, guys.
Can you give an example of something you might have done differently? If there's,
you know, I can't look back and say what I would have done differently. Scott had a lot of money, and you know, would we like to have done other things? Sure, if we had the resources, we would have. But there's no single bullet in this race. I think the bottom line is that he outspent us. He had a lot of negative ads, and we were never able to rebut them at the end the way I'd like to. I'm sure that had its effect, but you never know. You can always parse these campaigns in ad infinitum. Bottom line is that the voters spoke on that day, and the ones who turned out, the ones who voted the way they did, and we didn't prevail. And am I unhappy about that? Sure, personally, but we move on. The state's going to do well. I still believe that Florida's future has got a bright spot ahead of it. I believe that we will have a state where anybody with the initiative can start a small business and grow it and make a wonderful living for their family, and that one of these days before long we're going to have a school system where every child gets a 21st century education, and we reward good teachers. And I'm confident that my grandkids are going to be around for a time when Florida still has its beaches and its lakes and its rivers and its streams and all those things that are beautiful. And will I continue to take part in it? Of course I will. Maybe not in elective office, but I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and, as some people have done, just sort of walk away. I'm here to help do what my part can be to make that come true, and I'll be there for whomever ask me in the way at the time that I can provide that service.
so you're not ruling, you're not ruling out another run
Thanks,
for
guys.
something?
Look, guys, I'm not talking about running. I'm talking about serving, and you can interpret anything you want any way you want, but I'm just pleased to be your Attorney General for the next 4 months, and I haven't pivoted around to talk about other things.
is there any way
you
you can
guys.
endorse him if he
Take a
doesn't release that
non-political
deposition?
I think we've done all we can do this morning. to
Can you
answer
take a
it.
non-political
Thanks for your questions.
question?
We appreciate it. Thanks for your
I'd like
time.
to talk to you about BP and the oil spill.
Give me a call, Bill.
Don't mind doing that. So, yeah, we'll bring it.